the Dottie quilt pattern. It was designed by Moda. And when you download it and print it, be sure you put it on landscape orientation. I did mine on portrait and it printed okay, but it would look better in landscape. So this quilt takes jelly rolls, or you can cut your own 2.5 inch strips. The quilt in the pattern is 72 inches square and it has 36 blocks. For my quilt, I added an extra row, so I have 42 blocks. Now for each block, you're going to need 1 accent strip fabric and 1 background strip fabric. And also from the background, you'll need 2 extra pieces that measure 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So let me show you how we cut this. First, you take an accent strip and a background strip and sew it together lengthwise, and then press toward the accent strip. And we're first going to cut off the selvage edge, and when you have the strip like this, you'll put one of your lines along the seam line to make it even. Then cut off the edge. And I'm going to show you a different way to cut. I think it goes a little bit faster. So this is a 12.5 inch ruler, and we need to cut 8 pieces from here at 2.5 inches. So a 12.5 inch ruler will give me 5 pieces at 2.5. So I laid along the 12.5 inches and put the line along the seam line and cut our first one. And then move this down till the 10 inches is on the edge here, and cut the second cut. Next you'll move it to 7.5 inches. So the 7.5 inches along the edge, and then this line is along the seam line. Next will be 5 inches and 2.5 inches. And the reason this works is you don't have to pick the ruler up and keep putting it down and cutting. You just slide it to the left. And also you're always measuring off of the same edge. You're not measuring off of an edge you just cut. Take these 5 pieces aside. Now we'll cut 3 more. So for that one, we're going to start at 7.5 inches. This one's a little bit harder to see, the 7.5. 7.5, then 5 inches, then 2.5 inches. So we have our 8 pieces at 2.5 inches. Now next we'll need 4 pieces cut 4.5 inches. So for this one, I'm going to start at 9 inches along this edge and make a cut, and then move it down to 4.5 inches and make a cut. So we have 2 of them, and then do 2 more. So here's 9 inches here, cut, and then 4.5 inches and cut. And I have 2 pieces cut from the background, and these measure 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. And these are the pieces you'll need to make 1 block. Now here the instructions tell you to take 2 of these segments you just cut and make a 4-patch unit, and you're going to make 3 of those. Then you'll take the 2 rectangles you cut from the background and sew it onto one of the segments, and you're going to make 2 of these little corner units. When you sew the 4 patches together, I don't normally press my seams open, but I pressed all of these 4-patch units open. It's going to be easier later when you put the block together. And for these units, I pressed toward the background. Now we're going to put these together in a block. The instructions have a little diagram of how to put the block together, but I enlarged it so we can see a little bit better. We're going to put these together in rows and then sew the rows together. So you just follow the diagram, and we start with the first row and just lay them out. There's the first row, and here's the second row. And third row. And here's how they are laid out in the block. You'll start by stitching this row together. So you'll stitch these two together, turn it over like this, stitch it on this edge, then turn this one over and stitch it on that edge. Do this row, then the second row, then the third row. And the diagram also shows you the direction to press. So these arrows, you're going to press these units to the center units, press these away and these into the center of the unit. That'll help you put the block together later. So here are the rows pieced together, and the bottom and top ones are pressed toward the center, and the middle one is pressed toward the outside. Now you'll just stitch the top row here, and then stitch that to the bottom row. After you sew the rows together, I pressed in one direction. So here's the finished block, and in the pattern, all the blocks are set in the same orientation, where you have 4 patches in these opposite corners, and then this little arrow type thing with the rectangles, and then you have a little chain of squares going down the center. So they're all laid together in the same orientation. You can play with the layout if you want and turn some this way and some the other way. I found it was easier, and I liked the pattern better, what it looked like laid just like this or placed just like this. Next, I'm going to show you what my quilt looks like on the design wall and show you a little tip about how to change your colors around so they are evenly distributed in the quilt. Here's a picture of the blocks on my design wall, and I know I need to change some of the darks and lights around so they'll be more balanced. So here's a trick I learned from Winnie Fleming when we took the Borders Mystery class several weeks ago at the Five Oaks retreat. So you take a picture of your quilt, click on it, and hit edit. And then you click on this little bitty 3 little circles, and these different lighting features show up. So if you scroll down to the different features, they change the backgrounds. So I go close to the end and pick up one called Mono, and it turns it to black and white, so you can see better the placement of the lights and darks. So I'm going to save this, click done, and it saves a picture like that. So you can look at the picture and go back to the design wall and sort of rearrange your blocks. And I kind of like this little diagonal effect with the darks. And it's kind of neat to see the waves here, little waves. So I'm going to go and change around my blocks and take another picture. Here's the final layout I decided on. So if we go to edit and look at the mono again. So there it's a little more balanced now. Some of the medium value ones are kind of clumped together, but I'm happy with what it looks like now. And you don't have to save the picture each time because every time you move a few blocks around, then your whole pattern changes. So I found just taking a picture and then looking at the picture and then move a few blocks around, then take another picture and then look at it and move a few blocks around. I probably did it around 6-8 times. So whatever it takes to make something that you're happy with. Now once you're happy with the setting, just start stitching your rows together and then stitch your rows into each other. Here's the finished quilt. Well, finished except for the binding. I haven't done the binding yet, but I will use the background fabric for the binding. If you look in the description, you'll see all the materials used in this quilt. The quilting design is called Twist and Turn, and then the backing I used Blossom from Riley Blake, and I used white thread. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more tutorials. And thank you for watching.